Chapter 961 Faint Thunder. Zhang Yi took Huahua and Lele and found a relatively intact building in the ruins of the city. They entered the house, which was still dry. The sudden heavy snow blocked everything outside the house. Because of the outbreak of the poisonous miasma, people in the surrounding area died quickly. So many supplies were preserved. But Zhang Yi didn't dare to eat this thing. He opened the tent he carried with him and took the antidote, and then he dared to sleep in the tent. The outside world is still surrounded by poisonous miasma. If you don't wear combat uniforms, this thing will quickly poison people when it touches the skin. So Zhang Yi, Huahua, and Lele have to take antidotes every day. Huahua and Lele have good physical fitness. As beasts, they are more resistant to poison. Zhang Yi doesn't have this level. When Zhang Yi went to bed, Huahua and Lele slept outside his tent. These two are natural radars. Once there is any abnormal movement, they will find it in the first time and wake up Zhang Yi. This is something that ordinary people can't do. Again, there was a reason why Zhang Yi only brought the two of them here. At this time, Zhang Yi didn't know that the alien force, Hell's Chain of the Colombian Navy, had sent aliens to hunt him down. It was night. The night was as dark as water. The sky was dim, and the hazy moonlight could not penetrate the dense poisonous miasma on the Star Island to reach the ground. From the depths of the huge fog, a weak air sway came slowly. A pair of sharp white teeth pierced the poisonous miasma and slowly moved forward. It was a huge black boar that was more than 5 meters tall and more than 10 meters long. Its butt was raised high, and its long nose was sniffing wildly on the ground. Next to it, a man covered in gray-blue combat uniforms followed closely with his hands hanging naturally. "How about it, Magrian? Can you find a smell?" Hemet Boon, a member of the Hell's Chain, whispered to his adjutant Rem Magrian. The Boar King, Magrian next to him, replied. Their scent is still lingering in the air, very clearly. "Because I smell the killing intent of the beast." "The killing intent of the beast." Boone glanced at him. "Are you saying that the other party is a manic beast?" Magrian shook his head. "No, it's a real beast. That guy is either accompanied by a tamed beast or an orc-type ability user." Boone shrugged. "It doesn't matter to me how many people there are. What's important is that I need to lock their position." Magrian nodded. "Yes, I understand. I can already determine their position." "Very good. Then our hunting should begin," Boone said, stretching out his right hand. The white glove can sense the slightest humidity and temperature changes in the air. "The weather is very good tonight." He looked up. The moonlight was hazy, and dark clouds covered the sky above the city. "The thunder is faint. The sky is gloomy. I hope that the wind and snow will come and keep you here." As if in response to his words, the dark clouds slowly covered the bright moon. The wind and snow, it was getting heavier. At this time, inside the abandoned building where Zhang Yi was resting, Huahua suddenly opened his eyes, and it quickly jumped onto Zhang Yi. "Meow. Master, an enemy has appeared." Zhang Yi, who was sleeping, opened his eyes in an instant. At this moment, he seemed to hear a faint but terrifying sound in his ears, which was approaching rapidly. The instinct of time echo made him realize the birth of the crisis. In the sky, a thick black cloud began to gather above their ruins. Then a huge white lightning struck down in an instant. Boom! The white lightning struck down from the top of the building and directly penetrated the entire building. The entire building collapsed rapidly, and the rubble fell on each other in a mess, covering the area. But soon, the stones were shaken away by a huge force. Deep in the thick smoke and dust, a spherical pure land was formed, which was not affected by any impact. Zhang Yi unfolded the two-world knot and blocked all attacks at the critical moment. Huahua and Lele had already taken a fighting posture beside him. "I never thought that I have always been the one hunting others, but now someone is hunting me." Zhang Yi looked around with a sneer on his face. On Star Island, one could encounter any enemy at any time. But he was not sure whether the other party met him by chance or came here specifically to hunt him. If it was the former, it would not be a big problem, but if it was the latter, it meant that he had attracted the attention of the Colombian Navy. But no matter which situation it was, Zhang Yi did not care. It could even be said that, even in the latter case, he would not feel nervous, but happy instead. Because in that way, he could hunt the aliens with higher ability indexes to his heart's content. Waiting for the prey to come to the door is much more convenient than tracking them one by one. Boss, they are in. In this direction, the enemy is 2 guys. The distance is about 5 kilometers away. Leilei's keen sense of smell found the enemy's position. Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows slightly. What did you say? Can you attack me from 5 kilometers away? This surprised him a little. How did the enemy lock his position and attack accurately? He didn't have time to think, and the clouds above his head, the powerful lightning, had gathered again. Disperse. Zhang Yi would not be stupid to resist the opponent's attack, and made a decision immediately. Hua and Leilei scattered around, and Zhang Yi also used Space Shuttle to leave the location as soon as possible. The ground under his feet was hit by lightning and a huge deep pit. The opponent's attack distance is farther than mine. At this distance, I can't lock his position to attack, so I have to get closer. After Zhang Yi figured it out, he quickly began to arrange tactics. Leilei, help me pay attention to the movements around to avoid traps and ambushes from the opponent. Hua, cut from my right side to attract the opponent's attention. I will break through from the left. Woof. Yes, boss. Meows. Hua and Leilei have awakened their intelligence, and their IQ is not inferior to that of humans. They immediately cooperated with Zhang Yi to launch the action. Leilei's combat power is insufficient, but he is very good at sensing danger and searching for enemies. And Hua, after growing up all the time, has now become one of the most important combat forces under Zhang Yi. A cat and a dog ran forward from 2 directions. Zhang Yi opened the space shuttle and cautiously closed the distance. 5 kilometers away, the wild boar King Magrian suddenly raised his head with a cautious look in his eyes. They are approaching at a very fast speed. Boone was a little surprised. Oh? My attack didn't work? Then he sneered. It seems that the guy who dares to hunt aliens on this battlefield is indeed quite powerful. After he said that, he slowly closed his eyes, as an invisible wave began to spread from his brow. Above the surrounding area, the dark and dense cumulonimbus cloud became larger and larger. The moment Zhang Yi appeared in the space shuttle, a thunder blast hit his head like a sword. Chapter 962 Thor. Zhang Yi felt his hair stand on end. This was not a joke, but his hair really stood on end. Caught off guard, he was likely to be hit the moment he walked out of the dimensional gate. Fortunately, he had a BUG-level time-related passive skill called Time Echo, which could sense the existence of danger in advance and dodge. God's power. It was too late to dodge, and Zhang Yi's right eye directly launched the God's power, twisting an area above his head. As the space twisted, the terrifying lightning was split in the middle like a fork, and then boom, fell to the ground. The surrounding ground was electrocuted into dozens of terrible pits, and black smoke was lingering. Boss, there is no ambush. You can keep going. Leilei had already helped Zhang Yi search ahead. Zhang Yi heard this, and used Space Shuttle for the second time. Boone's 2 consecutive attacks were offset by Zhang Yi, which made his face become serious. It's really a tough opponent. A second later, Zhang Yi was only 3 kilometers away from him. A white light flashed in his eyes, and Mind Field was activated instantly. Now he could see the other party. A human-shaped guy and a huge elephant, right? But why is the nose so short? Zhang Yi didn't waste time thinking. He took out the thunderbolt directly and began to aim at the other party. And when he pulled the trigger, he and Boone felt a huge crisis coming at the same time. The holy silver bullet was wrapped in an extremely powerful force, shooting out of the barrel and shooting at Boone 3 kilometers away. And above Zhang Yi's head, a more violent and terrifying lightning had already struck down. Swish! Swish! The holy silver bullet passed through the dense poisonous miasma, leaving a long bullet mark in the thick fog. Wherever the bullet passed, Boone's body suddenly turned into a white lightning and disappeared on the spot. Zhang Yi was well prepared this time, So, he had used a body method that accelerated 30 times to avoid the attack of lightning. An alien who can control lightning, right? The operating range is at least 5 kilometers, and the power is terrifying. The visual ability index is above 9,600 points. Zhang Yi made a basic analysis and judgment in his mind at this moment. He is better at long-range attacks than me, and his speed is not slow. I just don't know how strong he is in close combats. Thinking about this, Zhang Yi understood one thing. It is definitely not that easy to kill this enemy quickly. Therefore, he changed his mind. He raised the sniper rifle in his hand and aimed at his helper, the huge wild boar. However, Boone could also sense Zhang Yi's movements. His eyes flashed with white lightning, and one after another thunder fell from the sky. This power doesn't seem to be caused by supernatural powers. He can draw lightning from the sky to attack, right? The power of natural lightning is not comparable to that of aliens, let alone this high-frequency use. In other words, the opponent does not produce lightning, but is just a porter of nature. This time it was not Zhang Yi who took the initiative, but he was hunted by someone, so he lost the initiative. But he already had enough combat experience, and he made a reasonable judgment at the first time. It is difficult to cause too much damage to the opponent with a long-range attack, because the opponent's movement speed is also very fast. Then just get close to it and fight. Zhang Yi put away the thunderbolt and once again launched a space shuttle to get closer. This speed of approach shocked Boone and Magrian. There is no trace of movement. It's like he suddenly appeared near us. He is a space-based ability user. Just as Zhang Yi approached, Huahua had already rushed to their side. It opened its mouth and suddenly let out a deafening roar. Meow! The sound wave dispersed the thick fog and destroyed many buildings within a radius of 1 kilometer and rushed straight to Boone and Magrian. The two were shocked and their heads hurt and they felt dizzy. This is Huahua's ability, Beast King Roar, which can seriously affect the enemy's mind. Boone and Magrian were caught off guard and their minds were temporarily confused. But this short time allowed Zhang Yi to get close to them. 1 kilometer. Zhang Yi stopped here and did not move forward. He raised his left arm and fired dozens of micro-missiles at them. Each of the new weapons created by Liu Karen was as powerful as a tomahawk missile. It was a terrifying weapon that could destroy an entire street. By the time Boone and Magrian came to their senses, the missiles had already exploded beside them. Boom. Boom. The ground in the area where Boone and Magrian it was thrown up fiercely, and the raging flames shot up into the sky. Everything within a few hundred meters was completely destroyed. The terrible shockwave made Zhang Yi retreat to avoid being affected. But before the explosion ended, a white figure jumped out from the raging flames. It was a white lightning, transformed into a human shape, and jumped in front of Zhang Yi. The white lightning only had the shape of a human, but the face could not be seen clearly. He stared at Zhang Yi. You are a space alien, and you have such a powerful force. You should be the chaos in the Jiangnan district of Huaxu country, right? Zhang Yi quickly changed the missiles and took out the white owl with his left hand. He silently thought in his heart that if the other party could turn his body into energy, then the holy silver bullet would definitely work. Who is your excellency? Zhang Yi asked coldly. Boone raised his right hand. Remember my name? Thor. Zhang Yi didn't have time to remember his name, because the holy silver bullet in Zhang Yi's hand had already shot towards him. Precision shooting, locking the acceleration. The bullets fired from his muzzle have a speed 3 times faster than that of a supersonic fighter. Boone's speed is also very fast, but he is not faster than Zhang Yi's bullets. Bang! 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 3 bullets reached his body in an instant within 100 meters, first penetrated his body, and then heard the gunshots. Boone glanced at his chest, where there were 3 bullet holes. However, Zhang Yi did not see blood flowing out. Energy-based body? Isn't it hard to find the vital points? Zhang Yi frowned slightly. Boone murmured in a low voice. It really hurts a little. Then take a few more of my holy silver bullets. Zhang Yi continued to pull the trigger, but Boone was no longer so stupid this time. His body passed a silver afterimage in the air and then disappeared instantly. You are very fast, but I am faster. He really did not lie. Because when he started to move at high speed, Zhang Yi's eyes were actually a little blurry, unable to capture Boon's figure. He is lightning, and the speed of lightning is difficult to capture. Chapter 963 Thor's Hammer. Boon moved around Zhang Yi at high speed, and the charge concentration in the air was getting higher and higher. His speed was too fast, and even if Zhang Yi turned on the 30-fold acceleration, he could not clearly capture his figure.
Boom.
As Boon moved, huge electric currents began to run around in the air like silver snakes and then frantically pounced on Zhang Yi. But the moment those terrible lightnings approached Zhang Yi, they sank into his alien space without any splashes. Boon frowned. Is this the power of absolute defense? Aliens who focus on defense attributes seem to be difficult to kill, but he didn't believe it. There is no so-called absolute defense at all. If there is, it's just that the attack power is not strong enough. Boon's body was also releasing electric charges, and the lightning in his eyes became more and more blazing. And in the sky, the thick cloud began to slowly fall. Zhang Yi stood in place, with the white owl in his left hand and the holy judge in his right hand. He didn't rush to attack, but was thinking about how to deal with it. Zhang Yi had clearly grasped the attack power of this member of the Hell Chain codenamed Thor. Although the power was strong, it was still not enough to break through his defense. After all, his ability index had reached 9,800 points, and his defense was terrifying. At this time, the area that had just exploded. The sunken ground was full of dirt, and a huge pig nose pushed open the black dirt and crawled out. But when it raised its head, it saw a huge black cat demon appear in front of it. Black stripes and a gray-white's king appeared on the top of its head. The sharp teeth were more oppressive than its fangs. Hua stared at it intently, opened his mouth and meowed. Hum. The wild boar king's eyes were filled with wild, murderous intent, and he quickly jumped out of the pit and fought with Hua. Zhang Yi stood in the center of the thunder and lightning, enduring Boon's continuous attacks. He did not rush to fight back because the opponent's speed was too fast. If he could not lock on, then his attack would not be able to hit the opponent. Even if the power of the Void Spear can cause serious injuries to him, or even kill him. But at the moment of my attack, he can completely dodge it with his speed.
It's still meaningless.
Zhang Yi remained calm, his eyes sharp as a hawk, and he was always looking for the right opportunity. However, it seemed that he was always being beaten, but in fact, none of Boon's attacks caused him any harm. The surging lightning had been attacking Zhang Yi's two-world bond, trying to break his space barrier. However, no matter how terrible the lightning was, once it approached the transparent barrier, it would be like a drop in the ocean. Is this the strength of the top master in the Jiangnan region? Boon frowned, and then turned into a sneer. How boring. What top master? The top master, who can only shrink. Although he said so, the more he hit him, the more frightened he became. Even the masters in the Hell Chain did not dare to take his attack head-on, and could only choose to dodge. But Zhang Yi didn't dodge it once from beginning to end, and chose to eat it all. Well, this is of course related to Zhang Yi's inability to open the dimensional door again when performing the two-world severance. But when it fell into Boon's eyes, he felt a huge pressure. Ordinary attacks have no effect on Zhang Yi. Boon suddenly rushed into the sky, and then pointed his right hand at the cumulonimbus clouds that fell to the sky. Chaos, I heard that your defense is very terrible. Then I don't know if you can take this move of mine. He pointed his right hand to the sky, looking down at Zhang Yi from a high position. Don't think about dodging this move. Because the speed of lightning can be faster than everything. His right hand was clenched, and a long snake-like lightning suddenly rushed out from the cumulonimbus clouds and then quickly condensed in his palm. In the end, it turned into a huge war hammer that was tens of meters long. The shape was like a giant silver cross. Thor's hammer. Boon deliberately waited for good weather for this hunt. Under this kind of cumulonimbus cloud layer, his combat power will be improved by at least one level. Even if he encounters a 9,900-point alien, he has the confidence to fight. As Boone smashed it down hard, the huge Thor's hammer, wrapped in terrifying power, smashed towards Zhang Yi. The power of thunder and lightning is too terrible, and the surrounding air is crackling because of the electric charge. Zhang Yi stood in place, feeling the terrible power of Thor's hammer, and could clearly sense how large the range it covered was. There is no way to dodge this move. Once the two worlds are untied, it is very likely to be hit during the displacement process. So Zhang Yi's choice is also very simple, that is to use the alien space to resist. Boom! The huge silver warhammer fell down, seemingly slowly, but in fact it was so fast that it made people's nerves have illusions. It just came down from the sky and crushed Zhang Yi on the ground. Before the warhammer got close, the surrounding ground had begun to crack inch by inch, and the ground sank deeply. Zhang Yi raised his head and stared at Boone and the warhammer. In Boone's cold and murderous eyes, the warhammer approached the dimensional gate. You really dared to take it head-on? Boone showed a mocking smile at the corner of his mouth. Do you still think you are that bastard Cartier's? The white lightning flooded everything around, and the violent explosion made the silver electric charge boil on the Star Island. The lightning shot up into the sky, and even people far away on Xuanwu could see it clearly. Li Tianyang looked at the image on the big screen and couldn't help but say with a serious look, have the high-level aliens collided? This force is so powerful and terrifying. He immediately ordered his subordinates. Investigate who is in that area. Soon, the subordinates' reports came. It seems that there are no people from our East China Sea region near that area. There is only Captain Chaos from Jiangnan region. Li Tianyang smiled immediately after hearing this. That's good. Let this guy pave the way for my East China Sea regions. Then, he showed a playful expression on his face. However, if he is not strong enough and is killed by others, I will also mourn him solemnly. The Columbia Navy also felt the powerful energy fluctuation. General Horn was a little surprised, being able to let Boone use Thor's hammer. It seems that the other party is also a difficult guy. But Horn was not worried about whether Hemet Boone could complete the task. Boone may not be the strongest member of the Hell Chain, but his ability to save his life must be the best. Even if he can't kill his opponent, he can still save his life.
Although
He only has a supernatural power index of 9,600 points. As long as he wants to escape, there are probably only 2 people in the Hell Chain who can kill him. Chapter 964. The World in the Mirror. The huge thunder, with its terrifying power, fell from the sky and hit Zhang Yi on the ground accurately. The terrifying pressure swept out directly, destroying everything within a few kilometers. Boone gasped for breath. Using this move was also a huge consumption for him. This time, even if you are absolutely defensive, you will lose half your life if you don't die. But when the thunder light in the sky dissipated, Boone saw an extremely shocking scene. Zhang Yi was suspended in the air, his body was spotless, his expression was also indifferent, and even a little disappointed. Zhang Yi looked at Boone and said lightly, "Your move looks very bluffing. I thought it was very strong." In the end, huh? This contemptuous tone and this unharmed appearance made Boone's mentality explode directly. How could this be? Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. The lore he was proud of did not cause any harm to Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi had raised the white owl in his hand and shot a stream of silver bullets at will. It's my turn now. The holy silver bullet penetrated Boone's lightning-like body. Boone was stunned for a moment, but then he burst into laughter. Although the holy silver bullet could cause damage to him, compared with his energy-like body, this loss was nothing. Sure enough, you only have strong defense. He opened his arms, condensed 2 lightning spears in his hands, and then shot them at Zhang Yi. Are you an idiot? The attack just now was useless to me. What can I do now? Zhang Yi calmly watched the 2 spears shoot into the alien space. Then, the vector reversed and shot the spears back. Boone stretched out his hand, and the lightning dissipated in the air and returned to his body. At this time, he had already understood Zhang Yi's ability. The alien space that can withstand powerful force attacks has a natural defense against physical attacks. What a tricky ability! Space-based aliens are extremely rare because their abilities have touched one of the highest rules at the physical level. At this time, Boone had already had the idea of retreating. He knew that he could not defeat Zhang Yi with his ability alone, at least he could not kill Zhang Yi. But this time, I already know what your ability is. The next time we meet, it will not be the same results. Boone knew that as long as he could find a way to limit the tricky space of chaos, he could easily kill Zhang Yi. So he planned to retreat temporarily anyway. The intelligence he should collect this time was almost collected. But just as he was about to leave, Zhang Yi said coldly, "Did I allow you to leave?" Boone laughed and said, "A mortal body cannot stop lightning from leaving." He flashed and was about to leave here to take Magrian away. But Zhang Yi stretched out his left hand to him, and his 5 fingers lightly relaxed. Mirror world. The space produced an invisible wave. With Zhang Yi as the center, 12 huge doors suddenly appeared in the area within a radius of 3 kilometers. They had no shape, and even light could naturally pass through from behind, but each one was as huge as the gate of heaven. The 12 doors suddenly appeared and blocked the area around Zhang Yi and Boone. Boone was completely unaware of this. His attention was on Zhang Yi, and he just wanted to leave quickly. He turned into lightning and fled in the direction of Magrian at a high speed. The lightning flashed in the air and then disappeared in midair. The next moment, he entered a strange space, a vast expanse of white, with nothing. But for some reason, his body suddenly slowed down, and the movements of his hands and feet seemed to be slowed down tens of thousands of times. What's wrong with me? Where am I? Is this still Xingdao? His body was infinitely slowed down, but his thinking ability still existed. The speed of time in the alien space is much lower than that of the outside world, but it cannot limit people's thinking. Therefore, when a creature enters the alien space, it will experience a sense of sluggishness that is worse than death. The mind can survive for a long time, but it can only face endless blankness and its almost immobile body. This is a torture more terrible than death. Zhang Yi put away his dimensional door. The 12 mirror images in the mirror world were a new ability he developed to deal with such high-speed moving opponents. The source of inspiration was his fight with Nero. It was like a high-speed sports car. Even if it encountered a small raised stone, it might cause a car accident. Going too fast is not necessarily a good thing. Zhang Yi was not in a hurry to kill Boone. He just let him suffer in the alien space. Usually a person will have a mental breakdown in 2 minutes at most. A powerful alien like Boone might be a professionally trained Colombian soldier with a strong willpower, then torture it for a while longer. At this time, there was a rustling sound of footsteps in the woods. Huahua came over slowly with a huge wild boar corpse in its mouth, followed by its incompetent little brother, the demon dog Lele. Lele looked flattering, wagging his tail, hoping that Huahua would share a bite of food with him. Zhang Yi walked over and stroked Huahua's big head with a smile. "Well done. I have not trained you in vain during this period. Huahua, one day, you will become a cat of Epsilon levels." Huahua proudly raised his neck with a proud face. Lele was watching from the side with envy. Zhang Yi smiled and said to it, "You are far behind. The gap in talent is too big." Lele was helpless and shook his tail aggrievedly. Zhang Yi looked into the distance and said in a deep voice, "All the members of Hell Chain have come. It seems that I have attracted their attention. Interesting, but it's really too interesting. We have to be more careful. There may be more powerful aliens coming later. Even," he fixed his eyes, "Cadiles will take action." Although the two sides had an agreement that Epsilon would not leave the field and let the people below fight. But Zhang Yi sneered at this statement. The agreement on the battlefield is temporary. Once the source of God really appears, he doesn't believe that people like Cardiles will abide by the rules. Including Xuanwu, there may be some action. Even if neither of them is the overlord on the land, as a powerful existence at the level of Epsilon, they are not something that Delta-level aliens can provoke when they come to the land. I should be more careful. Then kill more. Chapter 965 Obtaining Intelligence. Zhang Yi was not in a hurry to kill Hemet Boon. After defeating his opponent, he immediately chose to open the dimensional door and leave this place, to prevent the opponent's reinforcements from arriving here. After a while, he came to a place more than 10 kilometers away from the battlefield. I hope this guy is still alive. Zhang Yi's mind entered the alien space. At this time, Boon had been in the alien space for more than 5 minutes, and his mind consciousness had been blank for more than 10 years. This kind of torture is unacceptable to any normal human being, and it is easy to turn people into lunatics. However, Zhang Yi was not careless. The opponent is the elite of the Columbia Navy, and his willpower must be much stronger than that of ordinary people. So the first thing he did was to eliminate Boon's combat effectiveness first. Zhang Yi opened the dimensional door, leaving only an arm gap, and then took out his arm. Huahua's big claws pressed on it all at once. Zhang Yi pulled out the Holy Judgment and cut open his combat uniform. Then he took out a needle of compound number 3 and injected it into Boon. Injections, directly injected intravenously, can be more effective and faster than taking it. He had personally experienced this drug, and it could completely suppress the superpowers in his body in 1 minute. So Zhang Yi waited for another 5 minutes. After all, people's physiques are different. After 5 minutes, he released Boon from the alien space. At this time, Boon's eyes were empty, and he lay on the ground like a vegetable. Zhang Yi asked Huahua to hold his body. Although he had been injected with drugs, he had to prevent him from developing drug resistance and suddenly rebelling. Facts have proved that Zhang Yi's caution is unnecessary, but he would rather do some useless work than make mistakes. In the game between high-level aliens, a small omission can kill people. Zhang Yi opened the knot between the two realms, which can be said to be fully prepared. Then he forced Boon to drink a bottle of truth serum. The suffering he had suffered at the beginning was not in vain, and it gave him a lot of experience on the battlefield. This thing is very useful for interrogating the enemy and obtaining intelligence. Now, tell me how many people you have this time. And what are the abilities of each person? Zhang Yi stared at Boon's eyes and said to him. If he made any strange moves, Zhang Yi would chop off his head. However, things did not turn around. Boon's emotions were almost broken, and with the effect of the truth serum, he revealed all the information he knew to Zhang Yi. There are 4 forces landing on the island this time. The Columbia Navy dispatched the Hell Chain. The Izumo Organization of Japan sent the 2 strongest fighters of the God Pillar, Tsukuyomi and Kagutsuchi.
The
Takamagara of the Pelican Organization sent Amaterasu and Susanoo. We have no information about their abilities. As for Scylla and Marley, the strength of that group of trash is too weak. They just come here to make up the numbers. When Boon mentioned Scylla and Marley, his tone was calm and contemptuous. But for the aliens in Japan, he obviously paid more attention to them. Zhang Yi also realized that the strength of the aliens in Japan was obviously stronger. However, after experiencing the eclipse moon unrest, he had already had this guess in his mind. After all, Japan itself has a large population and strong strength. From the perspective of strength, perhaps the power of the entire Neon is close to the level of a large region in Huashu country. So, what about you, the Hell Chain? How many people came? What are the abilities and ability indexes of each person? Answer me. Zhang Yi asked coldly. All the members of the Hell Chain came, except for that bastard Cartier's. The members are the Deputy Captain, Billy the Kid, Yassine Canero, with an ability index of 9,900 points. He is the real hidden boss of the Columbia Navy and is even more valued than Cartier's. God of Hunting Euler Vito Baldia. The ability index is 9,800 points. He is a madman who is good at hunting. Once he targets someone, no one can survive. Zhang Yi listened to Boon's explanation silently and had a general understanding of the opponent he was about to face. This information is very important to me. I should thank you. Zhang Yi looked at Boon with lifeless eyes, and a smile rose at the corner of his mouth. If he hadn't gotten this information and learned about the other party's abilities in advance, he might have needed to go to great lengths to guess the other party's abilities and weaknesses when they met again in the future. Boone helped him solve this problem perfectly. Perhaps the Columbia Navy itself could not have imagined that their powerful members of the Hell Chains would be captured alive. Thank you very much for your dedication. Zhang Yi stripped off his combat uniform. After carefully feeling it, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Columbia's military and technological strength are indeed superior to Huaxiu. The annual military expenditure, which is several times that of Huaxiu, is not wasted. Even the combat uniforms worn by the aliens are better than those worn by Zhang Yi. However, it's not a big deal. Now that the combat uniform is in hand, Liu Karen can go back and make a replica, and this good thing will belong to him. Zhang Yi plundered all the supplies on Boone, including combat uniforms, close-fitting combat clothes, and various things. Let's just say that in the end, he only left Boone a pair of Columbia pants. Then, Zhang Yi stabbed him directly through the heart with a knife, and the dark void flame burned and devoured Boone's body. After Zhang Yi confirmed that Boone would not suddenly fight back, he reached out and began to absorb Boone's original power. The members of the Hell Chain are all high-level aliens with very rich original power. This time of absorption was like drinking a cup of sweet milk tea for Zhang Yi, which was a great tonic. It restored his consumed superpowers to their original state. However, the effect on the improvement of his superpowers was not particularly great. Zhang Yi couldn't help but sigh. Sure enough, it will be harder to improve as time goes by. This level of aliens can be regarded as the first-class combat power in the alien world today, but it is difficult for me to improve too much. Sure enough, I still have to find more prey. Zhang Yi thought of this and immediately made a decision. He took out the communication device in Boone's combat uniform and then chopped it down with a knife. Electricity splashed everywhere, and even the strongest materials were broken into several pieces under the adamantium. Zhang Yi stood up, and behind him were the giant Huahua and Lele, who had finished eating the wild boar king. I'm waiting for you to come to me here, Hell's Chain. Zhang Yi showed a meaningful smile at the corner of his mouth, then turned around and disappeared in the thick poisonous miasma. And Boone's head, which had become an empty shell, was thrown on the spot by him. Chapter 966: The Difficulty of Promotion. Hemet Boone's communication signal was interrupted. Throughout the Columbia Navy Temporary Command Center, the red alarm sounded in the conference room, rapid and heart-pounding. This is an emergency alarm, which will only sound when something very big happens. An officer hurried over and said to General Horn, the commander-in-chief of the operation, "General, Thor's communication signal is interrupted. There must be a problem with the communication equipment." Horn raised his head suddenly, his eyes as sharp as a bald eagle. Communication signal interrupted? How is this possible? The communication equipment is connected to the combat uniform. The combat uniforms of the Hell Chain are made of the top military materials. Even if there is a mechanical failure, there will be a spare. So this news means that Boone is very likely to have died in the battle. The officer said, "General, although I don't want to say this, the intelligence to show that." And not long ago, Thor was chasing the alien codenamed Chaos, and he raised his head, glanced at Horn cautiously, and then continued. They had a fierce battle. Horn's huge hooked nose opened uncontrollably, and his breathing became heavy in an instant. He turned his head and saw the red, marking the area where Boone was flashing rapidly. "You mean, Thor's been killed, right?" The officer responded truthfully. There is indeed such a possibility. If he was not killed, then he was captured. I think the former is more likely. He couldn't imagine that someone could capture a member of the Hell Chain alive. Horn's eyes were extremely gloomy. He stared at the location on the three-dimensional map and didn't speak for a long time. Only the second day after the operation began, a member of the Hell Chain was suspected to have died. This was a huge deviation from their plan. Lieutenant Colonel McCurdy walked over and looked at General Horn's gloomy face. He couldn't help swallowing. When they asked Boone to hunt Chaos, they all thought it was a sure thing. Even if they couldn't complete the task, with Thor's ability, if he wanted to escape, few people could kill him. However, now the iron reality is in front of them. Boone is likely to be killed. General Horn. Horn didn't look at him, but said, "Bring out the information about Chaos." I want to see why he can defeat Thor. The information they collected about Zhang Yi was not comprehensive, because Zhang Yi had no record of fighting at sea before, and the Navy who had seen him in action were basically killed. Cartier's had a brief fight with Zhang Yi, and Zhang Yi just showed his strong defensive ability, that's all. Therefore, the intelligence collection was not complete. Horn looked at the information his men had retrieved, staring at Zhang Yi's information deeply. This guy, what on earth does he want to do? General Horn's face was full of confusion. If he is so powerful, he should fight for the divine source. But why is he hunting aliens in the outer area? Is he a smoke bomb sent by Huashu country to interfere with our vision? No, it's impossible. Who would let such a high-level alien be a smoke bomb? This is equivalent to sending the Navy SEALs to find a missing child. Kurudi gave his own opinion. Perhaps for him, hunting aliens is more valuable than fighting for the source of God. According to our intelligence, chaos comes from the Jiangnan region. The strength of the Jiangnan region is weaker than that of the East China Sea region, so this operation is also led by the East China Sea region. Therefore, even if chaos gets the source of God, he may not be able to truly own it. Horn looked strange when he heard this. Does hunting still make sense for him? His ability index must be at least above 9,800 points, close to the threshold of 10,000 points. Only the divine essence can allow him to break through the bottleneck of the delta level. Kriti pondered for a moment and slowly said, perhaps he has no thresholds? Horn frowned slightly. What do you mean? Kriti touched his chin. Perhaps his potential itself is Epsilon. So for him, he only needs to hunt high-level aliens to complete the upgrade, instead of having to compete with others for the source of God. At this point, he paused for a moment and said, just like Billy the Kid. Hearing this, Horn relaxed his brows. If you put it that way, it's even more unreasonable. We all know that even aliens with the talent of Epsilon are not so easy to cross that threshold. If it's really that easy, the number of Epsilons in Colombia now must at least double. Kriti showed a weird smile on his face. Oh, General Horn. Maybe he doesn't know about this at all. According to the intelligence we have obtained, the relationship between this alien codenamed Chaos and the Jiangnan region is a cooperative relationship, and he is not directly affiliated with the Jiangnan region headquarters. Horn thought for a while and said in surprise, you mean the Jiangnan region of Huashu country? Didn't they train him with all their strength? So, a mutant who should have been at the level of Epsilon slowed down his promotion because of internal friction? Kriti said with a smile, isn't this a very common thing? It has always been like this in their place. If a capable person does not show loyalty and becomes a direct descendant of a certain party, he will definitely not be valued because of suspicion. Relationship for them is more important than ability. Horn sighed, shook his head and said, I don't quite understand. But in recent years, many outstanding talents from Huashu have joined our Columbia. Kriti said, this is good news for us. His eyes sharpened. If Chaos is really a quasi-Epsilon mutant, we can completely wipe him out before he grows up. This way we can eliminate a powerful opponent in advance. Horn nodded. He agreed with Kriti's approach. And Boone was dead. No matter what, they had to fight back against Thunder to maintain the dignity of the Columbia Navy and deter the opponent. Horn put his hands on the workbench, his eyes fixed on the three-dimensional map in front of him. Billy the Kid still has important work to do. Don't let anyone disturb him from obtaining the source of God. So the task of hunting Chaos will be left to Euler. Chapter 967 Euler. Each of the 7 members of the Hell Chains is a top-notch alien selected from thousands of people. Each of them possesses extraordinary abilities. The third person in the team, Vito Baldia, codenamed God of Hunting Euler, is an alien who is best at hunting. With an ability index of 9,800 points, no prey he has ever targeted has ever escaped. If we compare him with Li Fengxian, the Dragon King, who also has 9,800 points, his combat effectiveness is completely one level ahead of Li Fengxian. Because he is the most elite Navy SEAL member of Columbia and has undergone the most rigorous training. And he is also a veteran who has participated in many battles. Even on the battlefield, The number of enemies who died in his hands exceeded 3 digits, which is an extremely terrifying number in modern warfare. In addition, the most advanced weapons and equipment provided to him by the Colombian Navy. This person's name makes many people feel cold after hearing it. Horn realized the horror of chaos, so he directly sent Euler to hunt. However, he also learned from the previous lesson. The members of Hell's Chain all have their own jobs. It is impossible to send out more than 2 Hell's Chains at the same time to encircle and suppress an alien from the other side. But the refueling tactic is absolutely not advisable. Horn ordered people to release the news to every alien from the allied countries on Star Island. The bounty of chaos was directly increased to 1 billion points. These points are enough to exchange for materials worth 1 billion Colombian coins. Such a huge bounty shocked every alien in the joint forces on the battlefield. Even the officers in the command center were surprised. Such a high bounty is a huge expense even for our naval base. Should I ask Commander Douglas for instructions first? Horn's eyes stared at the place where Boone died, and he said coldly, "No. An enemy with the potential of Epsilon is definitely worthy of such a bounty. He must mobilize the power on Star Island as much as possible to kill this potential threat." On Star Island, in the ruins, there was blood and corpses everywhere. A reconnaissance team from the East China Sea region that came here to explore in advance has been killed. On the red snow, several huge gray wolves bared their teeth and looked around fiercely. There are no other enemies around here. A man in gray and white combat uniform came over. He reached out and gently stroked the gray wolf's head. In his left hand, he held a huge composite bow wrapped in gray cloth. He is the 3rd person in the Hell Chain, Vito Bardia, codenamed Euler. Euler is the hunting god in Norse mythology and also the snow god. When the cold winter comes, he will replace the position of the god King Odin and reign in the realm of God. And this ice age seems to belong to him. Bardia was stroking the fur of the gray wolf with his gloves, and suddenly the command from the command center came from the communication device. Bardia listened silently, and a mocking look flashed in his eyes. "Well, I got it." He ended the call, looked up at the sky, and suddenly sighed. Hermit Boone, what a useless guy. He died so quickly. However, it seems that a very good prey has appeared here. He couldn't help licking the corner of his mouth. The feeling of encountering a powerful prey made him excited. Then, let's start hunting. After Zhang Yi killed Boone, he uploaded the news back to the command center. After all, he couldn't miss the points for killing a high-level alien. The command center quickly analyzed the alien he killed based on the images sent back by Zhang Yi. It's a member of the Hell Chain, codenamed Thor. His ability index is as high as 9,600 points. The intelligence officer quickly reported the news to the top leaders of the command center. Situ Xian's eyes suddenly enlarged, and his face was full of ecstasy that could not be suppressed. Haha, Chaos did a good job. He killed a member of the Hell Chain so quickly. As Situ Xian said, he smiled at the officers of the East China Sea region, especially Li Tianyang. The officers of Jiangnan District also showed expressions of joy and pride on their faces. When they stood up, their backs were straighter. From the beginning of the joint operation to now, the East China Sea District has always shown a domineering feeling, suppressing them. Li Tianyang even mocked them for their lack of strength without hesitation. However, now, there are frequent reports of victory on the battlefield, but they are all from strangers from Jiangnan District. This is a bit embarrassing. Li Tianyang's face is really ugly. Chaos again? Before, he could still say that Zhang Yi killed some small fish and shrimps, not worth mentioning. But he dared not treat the members of Hell's Chains as shrimps. They have been dealing with the Colombian Navy at sea for many years. As for the strength of the members of Hell's Chains, they knew the power of the enemy. It was those people who forced them to not leave the blockade and enter the ocean area. Although Li Tianyang's face was ugly, he couldn't continue to be sarcastic this time. He could only endure the discomfort in his heart and said coldly, "Well done. Inform everyone of this news and let them know that the Hell Chain is not that powerful. Soon, The news that chaos killed Seoul spread throughout the Huashu Kingdom alien team on Qingdao. This news surprised everyone. When Lu Huang, the captain of the demon team, heard the news, his eyes became sharp. This guy has always been in the limelight. I can't let him be the only one in the limelight. He clenched his fists, wishing to find an alien from the joint forces on this battlefield immediately, and then start a fight. However, the entire poisonous miasma area is equivalent to 3 Tianhai cities. If it weren't for an alien with special abilities like Zhang Yi, how could it be so easy to find prey? Everyone was in the thick fog, moving forward cautiously. While looking for prey weaker than himself, he also had to avoid encountering 2 powerful opponents. Just when Lu Huang was full of fighting spirit and murderous intent in his eyes, a soft and slender hand wearing a silver glove was placed on his shoulder. "Captain, you must control your emotions." Lu Huang turned around and saw a sweet and gentle face facing him with a smile. Lu Huang is not tall, only 1.6 meters. But the beautiful and lovely woman had to bend down to comfort him, so her height was a bit exaggerated. She is Li Yu, the deputy captain of the demon squad. She is 180 centimeters tall, with a slender figure, a sweet face, and flowing long hair. But all this is not the point. The point is her exaggerated figure that is enough to make most women feel inferior and gives people a sense of maternal glory everywhere. Combined with her rare body shape of 180 centimeters, the visual impact is simply full. Chapter 968 Billy the Kid. Li Yu's comfort made Lu Huang's face flushed. He turned his head coldly to avoid being seen by others. Lu Huang said, "I know this without you reminding me." He quietly clenched his fists. But at this moment, the desire to kill in his body was rising. The most dangerous person in the investigation team had begun to suppress his inner wildness from the moment he landed on the island. Other aliens in the 2 major districts also received the news. Some of them were shocked, some were envious, and some just smiled slightly, thinking that they should continue to work hard. But without exception, they were all happy and encouraged by Zhang Yi's record of killing Boon. The Iron Blood Squad was now traveling through a poisonous fog in the city of McJibo. Captain Li Long always looked tightly wrapped, and even his face was tightly covered by a mask so that not even a trace of skin could be seen. He had just learned the news that Zhang Yi had killed Boon, and his dry throat made a hoarse sound. He is a surprising guy. He adjusted his white gloves and said calmly, "However, our mission is not to kill, but to find the source of God. If we can avoid the battle, we should avoid it as much as possible. Because in the next period of time, the battles will become more and more frequent. Only those who survive to the end will be qualified to join the fight for the source of God." The team members behind him were wrapped in dark green combat uniforms like him, and even the style of the masks on their heads looked like old-fashioned gas masks. Zhang Yi attracted the attention of the joint forces on the periphery and created favorable conditions for them. Li Long led the team members and walked along the marks left by the reconnaissance team without panic. But suddenly, Li Long's combat uniform received a sound signal. Rustle dash. Rustle dash. That was the sound of leather boots stepping on the snow. "Someone is coming." Li Long stretched out his hand, and all the alien team members stopped in their well-trained steps and then quickly deployed the formation. The gunner raised his weapon and aimed it at the front, and several sturdy, enhanced aliens blocked the team. Li Long walked at the front of the team. He swung his hands to both sides, and 10 claw-like metal blades emerged from his combat uniform. All of them were made of adamantium, which could even penetrate diamonds. Just from his weapons, it can be seen that he is an extremely dangerous close combat expert. The poisonous miasma slowly dissipated, and a strange-looking Western man walked out and appeared in front of the Iron Blood Squad. The reason why he was said to have a strange appearance was that the combat uniform he was wearing was very novel. It was the kind of retro Western cowboy style, with a big felt hat on his head and calfskin boots on his feet. There were 2 revolvers on his waist, 1 gold and 1 silver, both decorated with elegant broom flowers. "It seems that I have found prey too." The corners of the man's mouth raised a smile. "Since it is confirmed that it is not an ally, then it must be an enemy. The Iron Blood Squad launched the attack without hesitation. The 10 claws in Li Long's hand opened with a clang, and the red blood around him began to boil. However, they were the ones who launched the attack first. But before they could make a move, the world in front of them had undergone a strange change. A stream of white light passed through the space in front of them, as if it had been divided into countless pieces. Time slowed down, as if a century had passed. The scenes in front of each member of the Iron Blood Squad were changing. They left the poisonous miasma area in a trance, returned to their hometown, and saw their childhood and past events. Only Li Long dodged the fatal attack at the critical moment. However, in an instant, the heads of all the team members around him had been pierced by the white light. The reason why they felt that time had slowed down was because they were dying. Li Long's pupils suddenly shrank. He had never seen such a terrible opponent in his life. From beginning to end, he didn't even see how the enemy in front of him attacked, and his team members had all been killed. But now, he didn't have time to think about that. Because although he dodged the bullet shot at his forehead, his shoulder was still hit hard. The bullet pierced his combat uniform and shattered his shoulder, with scattered metal parts flying in the air. The cowboy still didn't reach out to draw his gun. Or maybe he had already drawn his gun, but because his speed was so fast, these aliens didn't even notice that he had fired. They also didn't realize that they were dead. Swish. 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 Bullets flew through space, making sharp and faint sounds. When facing life and death, the world in front of people will become blurred and slow. Li Long's body was pierced by 3 bullets, and his arm, right chest, and waist were shot at the same time. But what flew out was, they are all mechanical parts.
Boom.
Li Long's body exploded violently, his head flew high from his neck, and then he quickly fled into the distance with the power of the explosion. The cowboy looked at the half-wreckage left in front of him with some surprise. Artificial human? It's really cyberpunk. A leisurely smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. But deep in the wreckage, a red light was flashing wildly. Soon after, the whole area was shrouded in dazzling white light, and the shockwave caused by the violent explosion destroyed everything within a radius of several kilometers. Captain-level aliens are equipped with this kind of self-destruct device that can kill both parties. Li Long, as an artificial human, has his bomb in his body. This move is his last killer. But after using it, he did not pause at all, but quickly ran away. Because he could feel that the alien he encountered was so powerful and terrifying. Just a face-to-face, he beat him without any power to fight back. Li Long could never have imagined that his luck would be so bad. The first enemy he encountered was the vice captain of Hell's Chain, Billy the Kid, Yasin Canero. I have to escape. There is absolutely no chance of winning against such a monster. In the face of absolute strength, even the tactics he was proud of were completely useless. The opponent destroyed the entire Iron Blood Squad with just one move. How could he fight such a person? But the next moment, a bullet shot from a distant place and pierced through Li Long's head. Li Long's head was shot through from front to back, and the most important part of his body was also destroyed at this time. In the last moments of his death, Li Long's eyes flashed with a revolving lantern. He transmitted everything that happened today to the command center. Not long after, the cowboy came over and reached out to pick up his head. He just took a look and threw it on the ground with some disappointment. The head was completely destroyed, the origin dissipated, and it was useless. Chapter 969 Destiny. The death of Li Long and the entire Iron Blood Squad poured cold water on the command center of the 2 regions. Billy the Kid. This guy's strength is even more terrifying than before, Li Tianyong said in a deep voice. And through the intelligence sent back by Li Long before his death, they didn't even get much useful information. Sido Xian felt a little depressed. A captain of the investigation team died, just like that. Moreover, he was killed instantly by the other party. He looked at Li Tianyong. Minister Li. Who is this person? Li Tianyong replied, the second in command of the Hell Chain, whose combat power is second only to the Lord of the Ocean. We have fought with the Hell Chain several times at sea, and we have never taken any advantage of Billy the Kid. When he said this, Sidhu Xian immediately understood that the East China Sea region did not suffer any loss at the hands of Billy the Kid. He walked over and said to the technicians, "Slow down the video sent back by Li long before his death. I want to see how he made his move." The technicians immediately began to analyze the video. 8 times, 16 times, 32 times. After slowing down the video by more than 1,000 times, they could vaguely see Billy's action. He didn't do anything special. He just put his hands on the revolver and pulled the trigger 6 times in a row. Then he stopped. There was no fancy operation, just the speed of his action was too fast. After watching it, Sidhu Xian fell into a long silence. If you meet such an opponent unexpectedly, who can dodge his bullet? The first person he thought of in his mind was Zhang Yi. Perhaps only Zhang Yi's defense ability that almost ignores physical attacks can resist. He looked at Li Tianyang with a faint smile on his lips. "Minister Li, such a powerful opponent, our Jiangnan region is weak and I am afraid we can't resist it. Now we have sacrificed an entire investigation team. Such a powerful enemy. I wonder if you have a way to deal with it." Li Tianyang glanced at Sidhu Xian coldly, snorted coldly, and proudly put his hands behind his back. "Of course. They have experts in the Colombian Navy, and we also have experts in the East China Sea region who are not inferior to them. It is still unknown who will win." Sidhu Xian did not comment, but he began to worry. In this operation, if more than 2 captain-level aliens were sacrificed, it would be a price they could not afford. Now that things have come to this, we should tell everyone about Billy's ability as soon as possible. Let them take precautions. Li Tianyang nodded, and he knew this in his heart. However, facing such a simple and unpretentious ability, even precautions may not be useful. We can only notify everyone as a routine matter and let them find ways to deal with Billy when they encounter him. When Zhang Yi received the video, he thought about it for a while. In the end, he just said lightly, "I'm not going to compete with them for the so-called source of God. It's irrelevant. But this guy looks delicious." 2 days after landing on Qingdao, captain-level figures finally began to die. Zhang Yi killed Hemet Bun. Yasin Canero killed Li Long. This also made everyone on the island begin to have a strong sense of crisis. The top aliens who were once invincible in the outside world could die so easily here. This also caused the alien team to slow down. Because they were too anxious to move forward, they might expose their position and be hunted by others. However, there were also people who strode forward with high spirits. For example, Billy the Kid, Yasin Canero, Qinglong Su Xiaolong, and an old acquaintance of Zhang Yi, Tianlong King, Li Fengxian. People from various forces began to fight openly and secretly in this misty forest and hunt each other. Almost everyone's goal was the ultimate source of God, except Zhang Yi. He brought a cat and a dog, and after killing Boon, he continued to hide himself in the darkness. On the one hand, he prevented the retaliation of the joint forces, and on the other hand, he waited for the opportunity to continue hunting new prey. The most ideal state, of course, is that when other aliens are fighting, he sneaks in. However, as everyone began to be careful, such opportunities began to gradually decrease. However, there is no absolute safety in this area. Not long after Zhang Yi disappeared into the darkness, a huge gray wolf nearly as tall as a man slowly walked out of the poisonous miasma on the battlefield where he killed Boon. It came to the place where Boon died. The blood on the ground had long been cleaned up by Zhang Yi. However, the smell could not be completely removed. The gray wolf's sense of smell was very sharp. It sniffed the ground carefully, and soon, gray wolves walked out from the fog in other directions. They gathered in this area, not letting go of any suspicious smell. Behind the gray wolf, a middle-aged man with a strong body holding a huge compound bow walked out. He had a hard stubble on his chin, and he was not tall, but his body covered by combat uniform gave him a sturdy feeling. He was like a powerful dwarf in myths and legends. After he arrived, the gray wolves next to him automatically made way and bowed their heads to him, as if they were in awe of the Wolf King. God of hunting Euler, Vito Bardia put his hand on the head of a gray wolf. Do you remember the breath of that guy? The gray wolves gathered together quietly, surrounding Bardia in the middle like a pilgrimage. They closed their eyes, and a hazy white mark began to emerge from the center of their foreheads. Like a broken puzzle, pieces gathered on the compound bow in Bardia's hand. As the puzzle slowly gathered, it gradually turned into a silver-white six-pointed star, which flashed clearly. At the same time, the same white six-pointed star lit up in Bardia's eyes. He has been captured by the fate of death, Bardia said, raised the compound bow in his hand, and then slowly pulled it open with his right hand. A silver feather arrow condensed between his fingers and rested on the bowstring of the compound bow. Bardia aimed the arrow at the sky, and in his eyes, he saw a white hexagram flashing in the sky. Bardia loosened his right hand, and the arrow shot towards the sky with a whoosh. At this time, Zhang Yi had just found a new hiding place. It was an inconspicuous apartment building. He took Huahua and Lele and hid in a room of more than 100 square meters. Just when he had set up the sniper rifle and was about to ambush the passing aliens. Suddenly, a sense of crisis enveloped him. Chapter 970 Locked. In the night sky of Jinfeng City, a huge hexagram flickered above the poisonous miasma. A moment later, a stream of light passed through the hexagram like a comet hitting the moon, then drew an arc in the air and shot to a place more than 10 kilometers away. Zhang Yi raised his head, and he saw the light spot in the air, carrying deadly lethality, heading straight for him. I've been discovered. Zhang Yi frowned. Sure enough, being a hunter is also risky. As he spoke, Zhang Yi had already opened the dimensional door in front of the building. A huge space door almost completely covered the entire building. The stream of light came here in the blink of an eye. Buzz! A strange wave emanated from the air, and the streamer arrow disappeared into Zhang Yi's alien space. Zhang Yi closed the door of the alien space. However, a strange scene appeared. The arrow was in his alien space, rushing around, without stopping for a moment. Even if time was infinitely slowed down, it still tried to fly forward. What a powerful force! Zhang Yi's eyes also became serious. He didn't want to absorb this power, so he opened the dimension door and released the arrow. As a result, after the arrow flew out, it turned directly in the air and shot towards Zhang Yi again. Lock attack. This was the first time Zhang Yi saw such an outrageous method, which was very similar to a Sidewinder missile. The arrow was too fast, and Zhang Yi had to open the alien space again to intercept it. The arrow entered the alien space again, but its existence left Zhang Yi with a big trouble. It has been flying all the time, trying to find an entrance to leave the alien space. Once Zhang Yi opened the dimension door, it would escape and continue to attack Zhang Yi. In other words, this kind of attack can only be forcibly destroyed by force. And it can't rebound like in the past, right? Zhang Yi muttered to himself. At this time, Huahua's warning humming sounded. Lele also raised his head and let out a continuous low bark. Zhang Yi turned his head and looked into the air. At this moment, he saw a sky full of star rain approaching here. Dozens of identical silver feather arrows drew a perfect arc from midair and shot towards Zhang Yi. If you can't absorb it, then you can only destroy it. Zhang Yi's eyes became cold, and he knew that he had met a very powerful opponent this time. The intelligent combat system has already obtained the opponent's location through the analysis of the arrows. The target is 13.8 kilometers away from here. So that's it, you can lock my position and attack across half a city. There are also masters. Zhang Yi directly turned on the space acceleration, pulled out the holy judgment with his right hand, and the cold black flames of the void covered the blade. Facing the huge meteor shower, he backhanded a knife and slashed it into the air. The black flames burned fiercely, rising against the sky, like a long river of darkness that directly submerged dozens of feather arrows. But after a moment, Zhang Yi's pupils shrank, because he saw that several arrows had passed through his defense line and penetrated from the black flames. The power of this arrow is stronger than I thought. The arrow was so fast and powerful that Zhang Yi's void slash could not completely intercept it. He made up his mind and opened the dimensional door directly. The arrow inside flew out instantly. At the same time, Zhang Yi opened the second dimensional door and retreated a kilometer away instantly. The speed of those arrows did not slow down at all, and they flew straight to Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi took out the white owl and fired a few bursts. With the blessing of Zhang Yi's ability, the speed of the holy silver bullet has reached the Mach level. It only takes a thought to automatically lock the target within the field of vision. Bang! 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 The holy silver bullet collided with the silver arrow in midair, and it actually produced a violent explosion. That was the huge kinetic energy generated by supersonic flight, which made people's ears hurt. Zhang Yi saw the essence of that arrow at the first time. It was a pure energy body, so it was very appropriate to use the holy silver bullet to deal with it. And now what he needs to consider is who is hunting him. It's not easy to be a threat to me from more than 10 kilometers away. Zhang Yi looked into the distance. The intelligence system of the combat suit could give him the distance and position based on the arc. But Zhang Yi must not rush in at this moment. Because if you put yourself in his shoes, if he is an alien who is good at long-range attacks, he will definitely not put himself in a position where he can be easily attacked at close range before taking action. If it were me, I would set up all kinds of traps nearby that are enough to kill the opponent. Then wait for the opponent to come and die. Zhang Yi quickly got the answer in his mind. But if I don't get close, then you can only become a living target for the opponent. The opponent's attack range is too large, and the attack across half the city is comparable to a tactical missile. Even Zhang Yi can't do this. It's just that he still doesn't know how the opponent locked him. At this time, Baldia, who was far away, looked into the distance. He could feel the echo of the arrow. Before the hexagram disappeared, it meant that the arrow did not kill the target. Baldia was not in a hurry at all, but pulled the compound bow to its full strength again. Then a new round of arrow rain, like a waterfall, burst out violently. Before Zhang Yi could figure out how to proceed to the next step, he saw hundreds of white light rains in the sky coming towards him. The attack was beautiful, like a meteor shower, but every arrow was full of possible power and murderous intent. This seemed to be some kind of rule-based attack that locked the target. Even if it was absorbed by the alien space, it could not be completely erased, and once the alien space was opened again, it would still fly out and continue to attack Zhang Yi. In other words, in the face of this kind of attack, you can only confront it head-on and eliminate it one by one. What a hunter! Zhang Yi held the white owl in both hands, increased his speed to the maximum, and locked each arrow with the power of space. Then, the holy silver bullet quickly broke through the air. Hua, go find him. Zhang Yi gave Hua an order at the same time. The opponent's attack seemed to be aimed at him alone, not Hua and Lele. So, Zhang Yi confronted the opponent here, and then let Hua find the opponent's position. Today's Hua's defense has reached an extremely terrifying level, and its reaction ability is far beyond that of humans. If it is just a matter of close combat, Zhang Yi is far from its opponent.
Meow.
Hua howled, and then disappeared from the spot like a whirlwind, and rushed towards the source of the arrows in the direction indicated by Zhang Yi. Stay tuned, my dear viewers. We'll post more soon. Please help me by subscribing to my channel. Thanks, really appreciated.